way beyond crazy. Look at all these people out here.
Though the line itself stayed orderly,
the line was wrapped from where it's at now back around the other side of this building.
people in Pine Lawn thought this situation was out of control.
This don't make no sense. This don't make no sense. We've been out here too long.
Close to 1,000 people all receiving this letter. They'd been caught speeding at some point by cameras which clock your speed and issue a ticket, all without an officer.
We are a zero-tolerance community. We don't let people speed through Pine Lawn.
You're watching the most shocking and informative LRJ TV News.
Hello, I'm LRJ from LRJ TV. What is Pine Line? Pine Line is a 0.61 square mile community that's full of barbershops, barbecue joints, liquor stores, and is full of corruption from the leadership. But this city takes in more tickets in 1 month in their entire population. Let's go.
I'm supposed to be at work right now, making my money. Now they want my money, and I can't even make it because I'm here.
This line wrapped around an entire city block. Everyone in line threatened with arrest if they didn't pay up. Say they purposely put these cameras in school and church zones in order to keep the city safe. Today, the city of Pine Lawn potentially generated more than $74,000 all in one afternoon, but some in that line say they felt cheated out of their hard-earned cash.
Though the line itself stayed orderly,
the line was wrapped from where it's at now back around the other side of this building.
people in Pine Lawn thought this situation was out of control.
This don't make no sense. This don't make no sense. We've been out here too long.
Close to 1,000 people all receiving this letter. They'd been caught speeding at some point by cameras which clock your speed and issue a ticket, all without an officer.
We are a zero-tolerance community. We don't let people speed through Pine Lawn.
The city says everyone was given notice, but everyone I talked to said this was the first they'd heard. They weren't told where or when they'd gotten caught speeding. Most waited hours.
And I'm a disabled veteran, and I just had toe surgery, and I can't stand out here any longer, and plus there's no restrooms or anything.
Then they'd cram into the building. Our camera wasn't allowed inside. Some wondered if it was all a mistake or worse, an unlawful scam.
I don't believe that in this particular case it's a mistake. I think these people are charged with violating traffic rules and laws in Pine Lawn.
Not a mistake. You're right, Lou. It's a flat-out scam.
Today, I talked with St. Louis County's prosecuting attorney about these cameras, and he did not mince words. He inferred the practice is deceptive, and he says the motive clear.
St. Louis County prosecuting attorney Bob McCullough adamantly disagrees with the use of these speed cameras.
There's a big difference between legal and right. Those aren't always the same thing. I just don't see it as law enforcement.
Missouri law says speed cameras are enforceable in work zones, school zones, and travel safe zones. We found 2 of them. This one at Natural Bridge in Rossiter, the other at Jennings Station and Dowler in a school zone. But we found out they're both on private property, so neither requires signage.
It's squirrely. This is squirrely.
You know, squirrely's probably a pretty, yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good description of it.
And there's more. News Force learned getting caught by these cameras is neither a criminal or traffic offense.
They enact special ordinances that say, hey, this is not a criminal matter, it's not a traffic matter, no points will be assessed against your driver's license, send us $50 and we'll call it square.
But these people were also told either show up by 2 o'clock on Friday or you're arrested, or 2 o'clock on Thursday and you're arrested.
Correct. I understand that, and I certainly don't want to be the one who challenges that, but I'd certainly like to be the lawyer in private practice that represents the class of people.
So where does the money go? Pine Lawn told me Friday it's for road improvements, but today McCullough explained how that too is confusing, and it's all linked to a loophole in Missouri law.
Missouri law does say that only 35% of a municipality's budget can be derived from traffic fines.
Pine Line is purposely putting cameras on private property to keep more of that money for themselves. Because if the cameras was placed on city property, those revenues have to be reported.
St. Louis County wants the cameras down, but the county has no authority over them. John Nicely found out who does have control and why they insist on keeping them up.
This is where it sat all day today, unmanned, pointed at a county road, and the county isn't happy about it. But the city of Pine Lawn remains defiant towards the county and their request to stop using it.
Well, at this point, we see no cause for doing such a thing.
Pine Lawn leaders say the speed camera on Jennings Station Road is about safety. The speed limit on the 4-lane road is 30 miles per hour.
We have people going in excess of 40, 45 miles per hour right next to a school in a school safety zone, and they are endangering the lives of little kids.
The county doesn't see it that way, telling News 4 it's just a revenue generator that criminalizes otherwise law-abiding citizens. One resident we spoke with agrees.
They're only putting it up there to make money off of people.
Each ticket represents a person breaking the law. As it pertains to the generation of revenue, not sure how you can put those two things together.
This is a county road, but since the speed camera's placed just off the county property, there's nothing the county can do. They can't stop them from using it. The one thing the county is doing, removing road signs the cities put up saying speed camera enforcement ahead. Some city ordinances require those signs. We didn't find a sign in Pine Lawn, and city leaders wouldn't even tell us what's in their ordinance, saying we needed a sunshine law request to get it.
The Pine Lawn is a cesspool of corruption. Its own mayor does not even live in Pine Lawn. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Him and his wife has a house in a very nice area, and the house costs more than any house in Pine Lawn. The spokesperson of Pine Lawn doesn't live in Pine Lawn. And the prosecutor, he lives way far. But yet they come all the way down into the cities, into the slums of Pine Lawn, and take. They take every dime from the poor and the seniors, and they take their check and they cash them in their community. Heard that phrase that police will always stick together, don't matter who's in the wrong? Well, here's a former police officer and a prosecutor and a judge. Not only do he prosecute people in Pine Lawn, but a couple of miles away, he's a judge. I find it strange that in Pine Lawn, Delwood, and Wellston, they all use these red light cameras. But yet, I don't know. Is he involved with this?
More than 1,000 people on the docket last week alone. In 6 months this year, they took in more than $150,000.
I don't understand where, honestly, is this money going?
Some waited hours to pay up or face jail, but the city's own ordinance calls that threat into question. Pine Lawn prosecutor Anthony Gray tried his best to explain.
Because any jail time someone would have received for not appearing in court would have been for the failure of not coming to court and not necessarily for the speeding itself.
Don't you think most people would agree some of that is semantics?
It's semantics, but it's a very important distinction to make.
So how fair is Pine Lawn's execution of another part of their own ordinance? The tickets should have pictures, none of them do. We showed that to Gray, who read it aloud.
It says a copy of the recorded image upon which the notice of liability is based shall be sent to the owner. These ordinances are laws.
No, they're not. They're city. From what we understand, what differentiates is that this is an ordinance enacted by the city.
Yes.
In order to, in not so many words, collect revenue. Because bottom line, if they were to have these speed cameras through, like on a state highway, they could only collect 35% of the revenue by state law.
That's
but
true.
Because these are not traffic violations or criminal offenses, they will not go on your record. They will not show up in a traffic log if you get pulled over.
And any attorney who I show up to and say, look what they're threatening to do, me will laugh and say, let's go challenge this, because there ain't no way, no how, whether you show up or don't, you're going to be put in jail for this. Isn't that true?
Well, again, you're not being put in jail for that. And that's where we have our major disconnect.
If that's what you want to stick to.
Yeah, because you get parking tickets.
Okay, hey, if that's what you want to stick to.
Park in the handicap zone and get a ticket for that, and then get a court date for it. And that's clearly
by putting it on
traffic.
Private property, and we talked to Bob McCullough too about skirting Missouri law. That's deliberate, is it not?
Put it on private property is skirting what? I still don't get your reference to it being on private property. Are you suggesting that we are capturing images on private property? I mean, what's the point?
Where the cameras are placed makes a difference, right? Whether you have to only get 35% of the revenue, or you can take all of that money and use as you wish, right?
Now you're switching subjects on me.
Yeah, it's an interview. It's give and take. Those are just some more questions, right?
Stay with me there for a minute. I thought you were just talking about the camera itself being placed on private property.
Well, in a sense, I am.
Okay, and it's aimed at
where the cameras are placed makes a difference on how much money you get to keep, right?
I don't think the correlation, that's not the focus of where we place our cameras.
Okay.
Because it has nothing to do with how much money we get to keep. It's
Well,
targeted towards the high traffic area.
Here's the thing. This is why this is important. Missouri law says you can only place the speed cameras in 3 zones: school, work, travel safe. One of these cameras is in a school zone. The other one, the one that we referenced that's in this abandoned lot, is not in any of those zones. But it is on private property. Therefore, it doesn't have to be labeled, and all of the revenue that comes from that particular camera, every person that it catches, goes to the city of Pine Lawn. If it was in a travel zone, a school zone, or a safe zone, only 35% of revenue going into Pine Lawn's budget can be from those tickets. So therefore, because this is on private property, you guys get to keep all the money.
But are we really telling you?
That's the point that you're trying to make?
Well, but that's the point many people are making. Are we really telling you something that you don't know? You knew about that provision.
And what you're telling me is something that I don't emphasize on. It's not of any
But it is
real
something
significance.
but it is something that you did know about. Those cameras are placed where they are, and it's not by accident. They're not accidentally placed.
I have nothing to do with where they were placed, the rationale that went behind them, the psychology behind the placement of those cameras. It had nothing to do with that. All I know is that we get violators that are tracked by these cameras, and they're given court dates to come to court. Now, as a prosecutor, that's all I'm interested in, is who's violating the speed limit.
Officer, I'm sorry. Prosecutor, I'm sorry. Judge, hey, Gray, nice watch. I wonder how many innocent people had to pay for that watch. I wonder how much a kickback all these judges and prosecutors and mayors are getting from B&W censors. We don't know. But I tell you one thing, something isn't right. They purposely push court dates back to have people standing in line for hours to deter them from coming to Pine Lawn and forcing them to pay tickets that are not honorable.
I think we're a zero-tolerance community, but we're not a zero-mistake community.
Ruth Thecia Willis is furious. She was in line yesterday.
I just received another speeding ticket in the mail today.
She says she lives in the area and cannot understand what's going on.
Know exactly where the speeding cameras are. They can't be correct. How could so many people be in line and then be pointed as reckless drivers? Show us the ordinance on your speeding cameras. Prove us wrong. We want justice.
Time showed us forms.
What I call proof is this right here.
As you can see on 8/18/2013 at 7:03 and 55 seconds p.m., I retrieved the data from my navigation device. That is what I consider to be proof. The date, the time, and the seconds, not pen-written information.
Signed by 2 people who check the cameras and their speed readings daily. He says the speed cameras are here to stay, but that long line, it will be gone.
How are you going to make sure this never happens again?
We're going to make sure this never happens again by probably not allowing that many people to be placed on the docket.
As you can see, Pine Lawn gave me a wrongful ticket, said I was speeding. Look at the time on this ticket, 11:48 on a dot. Now look at the name of the street, Natural Bridge and Rossiter. Natural Bridge and Rossiter. Remember that street name and remember the time. Now this part is very important because this is my log. As you can see, every minute, every second shows a different coordination position. At that particular time, at 11:48 on the dot is a wrong time, because I looked at each position and found out that the actual time that I was in that location was at 11:48 and 15 seconds. If you look here in the position, it's very clear that something is going wrong here. As I had the GPS to zoom in onto the location at that exact moment in time, as you can see, Natural Bridge, and on the side, the street Rossiter. When you Google the coordinates or the position, it pulls up this location, Natural Bridge, and Rossiter. And here's the address. Now, people, you can pause this video and do it yourself. So I had to break it down to pictures for the city of Pineline leadership. As you can see, the location, once again, and the coordinates. Well, people, as you can see, the same coordinates, positions, and that building right there. That building looks so familiar, now doesn't it, people? Let's see why it looks so familiar. If you go back in my video, you will see that the feet that I was at to the next destination, this is the exact same way these cameras are detected by how fast you reach one point to another. That is simple mathematics. Therefore, the exact time, the exact measurement, and my exact speed is correct. These cameras are rigged and they're reporting false numbers.
If you were hacked off about speed cameras before, you're really not going to like this.
Just one day after I grilled Pine Lawn officials about their speed camera problems, that camera popped up in a new place that is catching everyone's attention tonight. Take a look. This is the camera at Interstate 70 and Jennings Road. It's pointing directly at drivers in the eastbound lanes, but city officials tell us it is not what you think.
Sitting in the grass between I-70 and Jennings Station Road is the latest speed trap in Pine Lawn. Yet another mobile camera in a city that's taken in more than $150,000 in fines just in the last 6 months. But city officials insist this isn't what it appears to be.
That's a zone where we try to reduce the amount of people that are speeding dramatically.
Don't you think that's misleading, though, for drivers? It looks like a speed camera. I mean, it is.
Well, it may look like a speed camera. However, it is a testing procedure.
A test. Interesting, considering it's the same exact camera we told you Tuesday is sitting in other parts of Jennings Station Road.
So that camera up right now is not clocking speeders.
Well, I think it's testing the numbers of people that are going through.
Will people get a ticket if they're speeding in that area today?
Absolutely not.
But some drivers are skeptical.
No, I think it is BS too.
You think it's not just counting cars?
No, no, it's not.
I'm getting a little tired of it. I'm getting tired of those other cameras too.
The city does say the next step could be to give out tickets in this area. But look at this, the camera's in a travel safe zone where fines are doubled.
Where it is the purpose of it being in that location to get more money for the city.
We've heard that story a million times. It's kind of an old book now.
But is that the reason?
That is not the reason.
Mayor of Pine Lawn has no idea how to run a city. This city is in a complete deficit, but yet the mayor has enough money to have his name painted on the entire fleet of the police cars and service vehicles in Pine Lawn. Who's paying for it? You are. The taxpayers of Pine Lawn.
Our first finding was about the broad financial condition of the city. Commuting miles, we had some real problems with this. I travel around the state, the whole state. I only put 20,000 miles on my car.
And basically what happens, you can see behind me, there's a black Suburban. That's actually a Pine Lawn Suburban that collided with a Northwoods police car. And they were responding to the crime scene, which is just right here, right around the corner at the Deals store.
There was no adequate accounting for how 50,000 miles were racked. It looked to us like there was a lot of personal use going on. There were no records being kept. That has to be reconciled. I don't know how you put 55,000 miles. Now, people said multiple people used the car, but how big is Pine Lawn? Like 1 square mile? I don't know how you get 55,000 miles on that. So now, maybe there was nothing wrong, but in my mind, as a state auditor who travels the entire state of 114 counties and 100 cities, I only put 20,000 miles a year on my car. So we need some better accounting for that. We are concerned that there may have been personal use going on. We can't prove it because there's no logs being kept. Our third finding was relative to budget procedures, overspending. exceeded budget by $309,000. That's a lot in a city this size. That's significant. Most of the overspending came in the police budget. We're asking this to be improved. This has been going on now for 16 years. First of all, there were payroll advances of over $4,000 made, but salary advances are prohibited by the Missouri Constitution. It's not even a law, it's the Missouri Constitution, even higher than that. So you just can't do that, and it's very, very important.
Why is this continue to go on? The FBI investigated Pine Line numerous times. The state auditor, and they found all corruption in this police department. But yet, the doors are still open. And when anyone tries to go against this mayor, they end up all of a sudden being arrested.
Is it true what they're saying you did in the grocery store today? Did you rip down that sign?
I did not rip down a sign. No, I did not. The store owner told me I could take it down. He gave me permission, and by that being his business, I thought it was fine.
But according to police, she didn't have permission. Investigators say Ford walked into the store Sunday demanding the campaign ad be taken down. When the owner refused, Ford allegedly became irate, yelling at employees before then taking it down herself.
Ms. Ford entered several other local businesses. She went inside of those businesses attempting to get those very people in those businesses to take down their signs, their political signs. They refused.
Ford says this is nothing more than a political stunt aimed at making her look bad just before Tuesday's election.
Clearly, he doesn't want to lose position or power, so he's coming at me at every standpoint.
So what does the mayor say about all this? Sylvester Caldwell has yet to comment, but his staff says this has nothing to do with the election.
This is not a mayor issue. This is not a mayor, the incumbent, versus the opponent. This is simply a young lady who broke the law, who was charged with breaking the law, who went to jail, and that's the end of the story.
Despite being cuffed and hauled off to jail, Ford says she's still the person for the job.
I feel I can do a lot for Pine Lawn, and if given the chance, I would love to prove myself.
In Pine Lawn, Lindsay Bramson, News 4.
Yeah, Jasmine, the arresting officer tells me he was just going to give the driver a friendly reminder to stop at that sign, but instead he says he got a punch thrown at him by the former mayor here in Pine Lawn. Adrian Wright was a three-term mayor serving from 1993 to 2005, but he spent the past 4 hours in jail before his family paid his bond just about 20 minutes ago. Police say Wright ran a stop sign near his home, refused to pull over for police, drove to his home with an officer following behind with his lights and sirens on, then took a swing at the officer who told him he was under arrest. Pine Lawn Police has a zero-tolerance policy.
Once you exit your vehicle and you fail to yield to the police, you've already demonstrated what you're capable of, and at that time you put us on the defensive. Most people do not run from the police for a simple traffic violation.
You're a little bit disturbed by it because you don't like to see this kind of behavior from any Pine Lawn official, past, present, or otherwise. So it's just not something that you expect to hear.
Many crimes in Pine Line go unsolved, but yet the city's police officers' only mission is to write tickets constantly. On the highway, any given day, you will see 3 to 4 Pine Line cars back to back, with each police car having someone pulled over. Yeah.
Police say they're not positive, but they think since they were out there running radar on drivers, Pine Lawn Police believe someone out there didn't like them being there. Now, as you mentioned, incredibly, no one was hit with all this gunfire. The shots, police tell me, fired over the roofs of their marked police vehicles along the on-ramp to westbound 70 at Goodfellow at 5:30 this morning. The shots apparently came from an alley on the other side of the highway. The gunman, so wild, bullets were fired into a house a block away as he apparently ran off, still pulling the trigger. Our camera spotting at least 7 shell casings left behind in the street. Frightened residents would only speak to us off camera.
3 times that I heard it, and it was like 5 or 6 shots each time.
And it scared you out of bed?
And no, it didn't scare me out. I stayed in the bed.
Pine Lawn cop wrote a ticket on his own time in South St. Louis County. He even used his personal vehicle, decked out with lights and sirens.
A Waterloo woman was driving from home heading to St. Louis when she says an unmarked SUV rapidly came from 3 lanes over and got right on her tail.
He was so closely on my bumper that I didn't realize he was the one with the lights
and siren going.
The officer was driving this personal vehicle armed like a police car, lights, sirens and loudspeaker, and police gear.
And the next thing I had this gentleman in my window screaming at me some words I won't repeat, and told me I had a problem with road rage. My husband said later, why didn't you pick up the phone and call 911? But when I had stopped, it had fallen off the seat. So I didn't want to go fishing for it because I wasn't sure the reaction I was going to get.
She did insist on hearing his name and department.
I said, you're Officer who? And he said, no, I'm Corporal Blakeney. And I said, spell that. And he did, B-L-A-K-E-N-E-Y. And he said he was off duty with the Pine Lawn Police Department.
Corporal Steve Blakeney tells a much different story off camera, saying Moore drove so recklessly he was compelled to write her this ticket for careless and imprudent driving. Moore is set for trial in St. Louis County, and Blakeney believes the evidence will reveal he did the right thing. Blakeney said his kids were not in his car. He said Moore might have thought so because Blakeney said he lectured her that he could have had his kids in the car. Chief Ricky Collins said he could not comment, that only the mayor could.
Mayor, Chris Hayes with Fox 2.
Sylvester Caldwell is also police commissioner.
Are you okay with your police officers pulling over people on their own time?
We had to get answers without Pine Lawn's cooperation. Polino said off-duty police work presents many problems, one of them being the officer's state of mind.
A lot of times what happens is that that person may have just cut them off. So now they're kind of ticked off. So now it's become more of a personal issue. He's mad, and it's because he's mad that he's actually taken enforcement, and not necessarily because he broke the law. It's because now he's mad.
Polino added that decking out a personal vehicle with lights and sirens is a rookie mistake. While no one from his city would talk, he said Pine Lawn's department policy demands officers step in when they see something wrong.
Welcome back. We continue to press for answers in the case of a Pine Lawn police officer stopped for drunk driving while in an unmarked police car. Russell Kinsall live at the Justice Center downtown Clayton, and he's asking why charges still haven't been filed against this officer. What answers are you getting?
Well, Larry, if it's just a regular person were to be stopped for drunk driving, wouldn't warrants be issued by now? That question has been raised because it's a pretty cut and dried procedure that officers follow, so why not when it involves a police officer? That's the question that I think a lot of people are asking right now. Well, that police officer is 42-year-old Nadal Othman, an undercover officer for the last couple of years for the Pine Lawn Police Department. Now, one of the reasons we've been pressing so hard for answers is that before Othman was a Pine Lawn police officer, he was previously stopped for drunk driving. Back in 2006, he refused a breathalyzer test back then, but warrants were never issued in the case. Now, I came here to the county prosecutor's office, and a spokesman explained the delay. See, officers got a court order to draw blood from Othman and send it to the lab to test his blood alcohol level that way. Now, the prosecutor's office would not say that he refused a breathalyzer test, but it is standard procedure that if that happens, they take it to the next level and they draw blood. So the delay is because they're waiting for the results to come back from the lab.
High-speed chase lands a Pine Lawn police officer in the hospital after 4 suspects in a vehicle try to crash into him head-on. Right now, those suspects still on the loose.
Here's what we know. The officer tried to pull over a car with 4 men inside. He says the suspects looked suspicious. Well, the driver didn't stop. Instead, he took off. This all started in the 4200 block of Edgewood, finally ended at Maple Avenue and Maple Place, which is just a few blocks away. Both scenes are in Pine Lawn. Injured is Officer Richard Cooper. He's 34 years old and has only been with the department for 4 months. Police Chief Ricky Collins tells me Officer Cooper chased the suspects for a few miles before the driver of the car made a U-turn and tried to crash into the officer's car head-on. He missed, and that's when I'm told all 4 guys jumped out of the car and ran. The officer called for backup, and more than 20 officers, I'm told, were chasing the suspects. That's when Officer Cooper collapsed and was unconscious in the middle of the street.
Local police officer is accused of forging a car title to save money.
The alleged crime happened here, inside the Olivet licensing office. According to court documents, Richard Cooper told the clerk he was a police officer, then submitted a fraudulent title application trying to avoid paying a higher sales tax. Police say Cooper admitted to it. We crunched the numbers and discovered the phony switch saved the officer about $865 on his new Chevy Impala. The Department of Revenue caught the fraudulent document. Cooper was working part-time for the Pine Lawn Police Department when he allegedly forged the car title.
This is the first time I heard of this investigation and the charges brought against Officer Cooper. It's a shocking way to find that a former officer that you had a lot of respect for committed this type of offense.
Richard Cooper is the same officer who collapsed during a foot pursuit in Pine Lawn in November.
Learned a controversial police chief who was just fired from one North County town, has now been hired by another town. Pine Lawn city leaders still have not given a reason why they terminated longtime Chief Ricky Collins last week, but that does not seem to matter because the mayor of Wellston, which is less than 3 miles from Pine Lawn City, has created a position for Collins.
Spoke with a number of city council members tonight who tell me they are concerned about Collins's past, and they worry that hiring him may be the last thing that this city needs.
I guess he is appointee by the mayor, yet to be approved by council.
Tuesday, we learned former Pine Lawn Police Chief Ricky Collins was already on the job at the Wellston Police Department, despite the fact he's not even a commissioned police officer there. The mayor appointed him assistant chief, gave him the rank of major, which didn't exist in this department before. Do you have some questions or concerns about him and his previous employment?
There are many questions to be asked, and there are many concerns.
Why Collins was fired from his last post is a mystery. We filed a sunshine request, but so far haven't heard back. Council members tell me they need to know, concerned already about Collins's controversial past. In 2006, for example, he accidentally shot a driver during a DUI checkpoint.
We don't want this controversy to tarnish the city of Wellston.
We went to City Hall to talk to Mayor Linda Whitfield.
I'm looking for Mayor Whitfield.
She wasn't there. She didn't return our calls. We even went to her home, but she didn't answer.
We've had controversies with different police officers in the past, and we just don't need it again in the city.
You ought to be angry and upset as a citizen of Pine Lawn. I know you're afraid of the mayor, but you gotta stand up. Because if you don't stand for nothing, you will fall for anything. This will continue to happen. These red light cameras are nothing but a scam and a way to get money. You're wondering, what can I do? It's simple. Click on the Facebook icon to stop Pine Lawn's corruption, because this needs to stop. I'm LRJ. Rate, comment, and subscribe. Why? Because you be glad you did. I love you all. Peace.